Hey y'all, I'm Gal. Let's get messy. Okay,
Yeah.
so hello everyone and welcome. I have 3 guests today. I was only planning on 2, but I'm excited I get to meet Hind. I've got to come up with a name for you. I tend to give people, I show my affection through names.
I'm excited.
Sarah is
That's
Sarah.
right. Say
raw.
Say raw.
There we go.
And
my
then
gosh,
we have
Shannon.
Cugie Patucci.
Yes.
And I got to
She's
get to
so
know you
cute.
before I give you a name. So, but you're beautiful and
Oh,
you're
thank
welcome
you.
here. And I'm so excited to meet you.
Likewise, I
So-
love that.
Thank you. So, everybody, say raw. I love that you did that. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so, last time I was on your podcast and y'all graciously agreed to be on mine. So, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You three, now the 3 of you together run ND Report Pod. That's what it's called, right? And all the links will be
Yep.
connected.
Yeah, we run
But
the Neurodivergent Report, but yeah, our handle and everything is ND Report Pod.
gotcha. All right, so let's
I
just
was so
start at the
happy it
beginning.
was available everywhere. I made
Yeah.
accounts everywhere. And
Everywhere. I
Yeah.
know. That's the hardest part, and I've run into that in
Yeah.
a few places. Like my website, Artistic Expressions, it's taken on YouTube. So couldn't use that there. And so my niece told me, she was like, trademark that crap now.
Oh my God. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got to get on that. But let's go alphabetical order. Hind, tell me about yourself.
Oh my God. Let's start there.
Just your
Alphabetical
background.
order. Because I'm from Kuwait and in Arabic, my letter is always the last. So I'm like, wait, let's go alphabetical order. I'm the first one. I'm so not used to it. You know, in school, it was so important to be like the first one to be called out. Okay, so I'm from
Yeah.
Kuwait.
Oh.
I am a medical graduate, and I was lucky enough to meet these 2 girls and create this wonderful community. And Sarah graciously, picked me as well as JQ to be part of this podcast. I am very much interested in research and mental health advocacy. And I'm planning on joining the psychiatry residency, hopefully to become a psychiatrist in a few years. And so it's an honor. I think it's the step in the right direction to becoming a psychiatrist that has a holistic approach, and listens to patients.
I love that. And one thing that I loved so much when I first stumbled upon these 2 was their passion for research.
Yes.
And really digging in, and that's really what drew me in, because I love that too, but I don't communicate it as well as these ladies do. so I love that they have you now with them.
Thank you. I'm really grateful
Hen's
to
been
see how
working-
how this turns out. Yeah.
Yeah, because like before Hen was front facing on the show, she was working in the background, pulling our research for us. Like she has been such a crucial part of this team before,
you.
she started, being on camera. So thank you so much,
Well,
Hen.
I love that. All right, your turn, QG, even though that's
All right.
backwards.
QG, yes, it's all good. I'm QG Paducci, also known as JQ Walker. I do a handful of things. I'm a ADHD-er. I started out my career wanting to be a clinical psychologist, so I've worked in academia and for a few different areas of psychology for a while. I was going to get my clinical psychology PhD and then kind of decided actually I can't really do this. And it was during at the beginning of my onset of hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and POTS, which are 2 comorbidities found with ADHD and autism, interestingly enough. So I kind of had to start just working from home remotely, and the only thing that really worked was contracted gigs, just because of the unpredictability of how much I could do in a day. Luckily now I have like a really great care team, and I am able to work a lot more consistently. But I've just been still working contract work. So that looks like a few different things. Like with my research skills, I've done market research stuff. I do writing, like I've written on Psychology Today and like helped create like a lot of like mental health articles, educational content for different educational organizations and schools. I also do voiceover work. That's actually a big chunk of what I do.
I just
and
learned that.
That's a fun way to balance.
Makes
Oh,
perfect
yeah.
sense.
She's a certified badass, y'all.
Perfect sense. Oh my God.
She's in a band too.
Oh yeah, I'm in a band.
Can I
know,
fangirl?
That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, because it's kind of just, I very much for a while was like, well, I have to pick a career and I have to do, and also family having expectations of what I should do. And like, I'm very lucky to have such a supportive partner and family and friends who are just like, you do what makes you happy. And what has been making me happy is just a mix of a lot of different things. And now the Neurodivergent Report. So variety is definitely spiceful.
It is, and that's so wonderful that you get to do this while you're still
Yeah.
so young and full of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sarah knows. Sarah's a
Yeah.
smidge older than you,
Yeah.
and she has kids, so all of her energy is now being channeled into
Divided.
life. Right.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
so, yeah, it's so
Which perfect
divided.
segue to Sarah then.
Right.
yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of sitting here thinking, like, gosh, how do I introduce myself? Because usually I have to tailor it for, like, who I'm talking to, you know? What do these people care about, you know? Because I'm a mom of two. I have a toddler and an 11-year-old. So, like, I've got a span of ages. So my life... my life, a lot of it is sort of planned out for me. The kids' routines, I have to manage that and sort of thing. So, in some ways, that has actually been really good for me, but not until I realized that I had ADHD. Because sort of prior to that, I didn't know why I couldn't stick to a routine. I didn't know why my house was so messy, and I had like a half-eaten pie on the floor. And it wasn't because I'm a slob. It's just because, like, I got called away real quick, and I don't know, I didn't notice it there.
Yeah.
Right. You're just
It doesn't
everywhere.
have to be a morally bad thing, but, like,
Right.
some people make it morally bad, okay? So,
Yes,
anyway,
they do.
I think I'm just going to snap back and say that I've been an ADHD coach for the last 4 years. Pretty much, I got diagnosed with ADHD. I already had experience working in mental health and social work, and so it was super natural for me to be like, okay, I need to learn everything I can about this so I can help my child, who is me. Is me. And,
Love that.
so I did, and it's been really, it's been all over the place, but it's been great to see advocacy swinging in the right direction here. People being included more for their experiences, instead of just being like, oh, what are your credentials?
Right.
The
Because
meritocracy has got to go.
Lived experience is so important. Hind, do you fall anywhere on the spectrum, or are you just
I do.
So-
I was gonna say
about this stuff?
I was gonna say, I always worry that you're gonna see me do this, you're gonna see me do that, and I'm gonna keep going all over the place. And I'm just realizing, like, I sometimes feel like I need to stop doing that, and I'm like, no, I think this is a safe space. So yeah, I'm all over the place with that. Yeah, I was diagnosed with ADHD
Hashtag it might get messy.
at 23.
Right.
Yeah.
23. Okay.
I was already I was already a fifth-year medical student. I went through medical school 4 years without any sort of diagnosis, and I was really hard on myself. And then, I had to repeat a year because I was undiagnosed and I was not sure what's going on. And then, my journey into psychiatry, started because I met a psychiatrist, diagnosed me with ADHD. My life started making sense. I started getting better grades. Not that that matters, back then it did, but now I look back like life is not just grades. I was able to find my keys on time. I was able to not lose my file at university and come back and get it. I was able to find my car finally and not spend hours to do that. But obviously being late diagnosed has a lot of, cumulative stress and
baggage.
Yeah, and I
baggage.
Inflammation.
realized that I really want to make sure that no other little girl goes through that again.
Right. Well, that I like that you're so a little bit, I guess, recent in your diagnosis, because I want to talk about that. But first thing I have to say, you, QG, said ADHD, and I'm going to admit something to y'all that don't laugh, but you will. I didn't know until recently that it was pronounced, that it had a pronunciation. ADHD. I just called it AUDHD when I'd see it. AUDHD, and then I heard somebody say ADHD, and I was like, there's a pronunciation.
I think in other languages, that's like a vowel sound. Like, that's like a normal sound, I think.
Interesting.
And not English, though. I'm not really... It's not like I'm bilingual, but it sounds like something else.
I'm trying to help
Anyway.
you if that's the case, but I'm like, no, not in my language. But no.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to see, because I was diagnosed ADHD in 2013, and I got my diagnosis and a prescription, and that was literally it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear what's changed. How is it addressed, especially for older people?
Well, also
Maybe not much.
Same.
I wanted to say one quick thing, because I'm assuming that people listening will know what it means, but like ADHD is like autism and ADHD.
Andy, thank you for clarifying. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Both ends of the spectrum and everything in between.
And everything in between.
Which I think that sometimes I say ADHD because I feel like I'm pretty stereotypical ADHD, and that ADHD has less actually of a specific cemented stereotype.
Yeah.
But with autism, I definitely feel like some sense of, I don't even know if imposter syndrome is the right word, because I'm very much not like the super typical, because like I'm hyperlexic, like I definitely am pretty talkative, and like, presentations in women are also not as known and talked about, and I'm high masking, and I've always, so like, but that's something that I'm currently working on, is just being like, that I am autistic, so if you are confused by that, just talk to me. So yeah.
I'm trying to like fake it till I make it with like the acceptance around that, but still, it definitely, I'm like, am I though, or am I just weird?
Yeah.
Or both.
And doesn't that sum it up perfectly?
All three. I'm fine. I'm fine with just the label of weird. I just am.
Oh my God, I saw, no, actually this was such a detour, never mind. I was gonna be like, I saw a TikTok that was just like embrace the fact that you're just like weird and have an authority problem, and I'm like, yeah, that's so true.
I'm 50 years old and I'm wearing boing boings.
We love that.
I mean, I don't mean to invalidate anyone who is looking for a label or like some understanding of themselves. But I think for us, we're at the point where we have already accommodated ourselves, and really all we were looking for is just self-acceptance and community that also accepted us, and like people who like looked forward to seeing us and got excited when we came into the room or something, know? Oh my God, it's kiwi time.
I tried to sneak it.
No, you can't get it past me.
My fiance every day has the same one, and he always cuts up a kiwi and then gives me a slice of it. So we usually end up recording around when that happens. So
that's
kiwi
so
time
sweet. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's gonna be infamous.
Yeah,
like,
kiwi
we're gonna have
time.
memes about it.
Yeah. Get you someone who does a kiwi time for you, like
I'm not super good drawer, but like I'm imagining a comic.
Yeah. Also, I'm
so
so
again,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I derailed the whole conversation, and before you were asking about like late diagnosis what that looks like and stuff.
What's changed?
Yeah.
Is anything gotten better for older adults, or is it still a lot of just, here's your diagnosis, take a pill?
Yeah, still that very
Yeah.
much. But I think, and
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, maybe back like a few years prior, maybe 5, maybe even 10 years, it was really hard for people to accept that an adult might have ADHD. And I think that's more,
Well-
yeah.
Well, which kind of goes back to the conversation we had for theirs, misdiagnosis. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I was bipolar for a lot of years and doped up on medication, so much so that I wasn't even a person anymore. I think that hopefully is slowing down some, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
hope so too. And oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that there are definitely good practitioners out there who are up to date with the research. And I from my understanding of my own experience and like talking to a lot of different neurodiverse people, I think the biggest thing that's changed over the last handful of years has been more like finding community and just sharing
Yeah.
personal experiences with each other. I think that has become a lot easier to access for a lot of people. I've seen so many different Reddit threads, conversations in Discords, conversations in life of people being like, yeah, I'm frustrated with this doctor who doesn't really seem to be up to date on the research. And now I'm confiding in my community about it. And it's nice that somebody understands. And hopefully one day all doctors will be on the same page.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I get that.
Yeah.
So, what are y'all's passion projects? Individually, collectively? Do you have something that's just like this is my purpose right now, maybe not forever, but right now this is my purpose?
That's a
The
good question.
Neurodivergent Report.
What did you say?
Our podcast.
Right
That's a good-
answer.
That's a good
Yes.
plug.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I absolutely love working on this every day, and it's really such an honor to be working with the two of them. And like I said before, like we've become like really fast friends. And I think that another thing that relates to this too, relates to being late diagnosed too, is I think that the three of us have had a handful of conversations where we are helping to heal each other and our younger selves, just through like our friendship, and that's been really beautiful. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm so annoying.
yeah.
exactly.
Sorry,
Oh
like,
my
you-
God.
text
It
messages.
was just,
Oh.
yeah.
Like, I wasn't going to send this because I was worried it was going to be annoying, and then the other two just being like, "What are you
What are
talking
you talking about?"
Like,
And
I
then-
want to hear the thing.
5 seconds later, I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, I wanted to send this message and I wanted to tell you about my recent interest, but I didn't want to be annoying, so I didn't
Yeah.
say it. And
Yeah.
We were literally all late to our meeting with each other this morning.
Well, that's wonderful that y'all have each other.
yeah,
I love
mean,
that.
Yeah.
I told them yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before. It was yesterday. It was, I started like tearing up halfway through because I felt like my middle school self is healing, you know? I was lucky enough to be in a school that was, you know, they were nice. They didn't bully me, but they knew I was different, and I never been like in a group, you know. I've always been like there from a distance. And it's so nice to, I have great friends now, but they don't have, you know, they don't understand this. So, and it's just nice, like to tell, to tell, you know, Sarah and Jay about like my recent hyperfixation about like the Ottoman Empire, and they'll like listen, like they'll completely listen to it and just be so interested.
It's a totally different type of relationship.
Yeah.
You know, it's a totally different dynamic, everything. And it's sad that it has to be that way, but
yeah.
I mean, at least you have it, right? So how did you all find each other?
I'll say it because I think Sarah doesn't want to break confidentiality. She was my ADHD coach. She still is. So I'm gonna let her like not think about saying it. I'm gonna let you guys know.
She's my
ADHD coach.
Yeah, I mean,
Sweet.
ADHD coaching brought us all together for sure.
yeah.
Like our shared executive dysfunction, and our love of like research-based like strategies for ADHD folk. When I met both of these ladies, neither of them had recognized that they had autistic traits.
Whoa.
So I've really got to see both of them like grow into that and like pick up on it and have a little breakdown and be like, no, it's okay. I'm going to hold your hand.
Yeah.
Here's a website. let's go. Rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, yeah, so now we all get to be like on a podcast together, and I never imagined that in a million years. Yeah,
That's
it was
wonderful.
sort of just like, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not time to stop, actually. Now is the time to do it harder.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it kind of also, Sarah and I used to work together as ADHD coaches. That was another thing that I've kind of done in my random contracted freelance stuff. And she was my mentor. Like, she was in charge of training me, and I was always so excited to do stuff because I was always looking forward to talking with Sarah. And yeah, and then I know that the way that the podcast ended up happening was kind of like perfect timing under like unfortunate circumstances on like, I know on my part
For
too.
everyone, yeah.
For everyone. I was like, I don't know if I want to like call this out on behalf of Sarah, but Sarah was leaving the ADHD company that we had worked at, and I had already left I was not really a big fan of how it was run, and I ended up leaving. But then I was working with, I was doing a market research or contracted position, but it took up a lot of my time. So it was like my main source of income. And this is a story for another time, but I kind of had a disagreement with my boss, like the client, but like she was the CEO of this company, where she said that she wanted to move my job from remote to in-person in Utah, but she knew that I was very much rooted in Buffalo. And even though she didn't
Her
say
mouth
it,
and her face was not matching.
Yeah, like it's very much like we had this disagreement that I kind of think is because of an incompatibility between autistic communication and a neurotypical communication. It wasn't really fully resolved, and then she would not really talk to me for like a few weeks, and then it was all of a sudden like I actually asked her if I could get a raise because I was doing more work than I originally signed up for. She said yes, and that we should have a meeting about it. And then in that meeting, she was like, actually, I should be paying you less, and I'm not going to be paying you anyway because we are terminating your position to be in person in Utah. Such a side tangent. Such a side tangent.
Well,
You
that's
needed to
okay
get that off your
because-
chest.
Yeah, you totally do. But no, because it's so similar to what happened to me also around the same time period. Because I had been with this company as a contractor for 4 years. And then we had a year planning meeting for like what the podcast was going to look like to really orient because I used to do another podcast. And so we had made plans. We did like a year building dream board activity thing. And then I woke up on a Monday and had no access to anything, actually. All my accounts were revoked and everything. And then I was asked to book a meeting. At the meeting, she was like, yeah, so we're terminating your contract. And I was like, okay.
Just, yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like, that was
No shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, but really, and she was also a neurodivergent person. And so really, communication is tough for everyone. Okay.
Right.
But when people aren't being direct,
That's even
I
worse.
know that. Like, I know when people are trying to pull the wool over my eyes because I've been through so much trauma.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
smarter than me, honey.
Yeah.
And so it was like, and so it was making me physically unwell to like ignore all of these signs and be like, no, but she says this, but she says that. And then anyway, it was all a very much like we all started talking to each other and realized that we were all being mistreated.
All the
and
coaches,
so it was
is what
very
you're saying.
much like a, yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
How
that was
comforting. That's
What's that?
comforting that y'all had each other, though, because my
So
my
much.
situation was very similar.
Similar.
But it was one of those, everybody had my back and still has my back in private conversations.
Oh,
But
that's the worst.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Ex workers. Oh, I get stuff all the time from people, and everybody's like, we get it, but nobody will speak up.
That is so.
Nobody. And it's
that
just,
is so awful.
it just tells me, you're good. I got
Hard
out
to
when I
stand up
did.
to the people
Yeah.
who sign your paychecks.
Yeah.
It is. But
Even doctors and the insurance companies, like the
Yeah,
doctors
well-
know that the insurance companies are doing hard, but yet they don't stand up to them because they sign their paychecks.
Right.
yeah, there's one that I follow on Instagram, and y'all probably know who I'm talking about, Dr. Elizabeth something. she posts a lot of stuff standing up to United Healthcare. And every time she posts something, I'm like, oh, please, just more
Please
of
don't
you
get
do
canceled.
this.
Yeah.
Right, more of you do this.
Yeah.
So, Hind,
Yeah.
how did your family take it how did they take were they surprised with your diagnosis? Or were they like, well, yeah.
So I come from a family that's very scientific based. I think part of my imposter syndrome is not only do I compare myself to the medical community, and so I don't feel like it's a big deal what I'm doing unless I'm like looking at people who are like doing better, but also because my family are very much research based, like, very knowledgeable. And so thankfully that was, though, not a stigma thing. And especially in I think there is mental health stigma overall in all of the world, and it's all over the world. We're getting better, but obviously in Kuwait it was way more, and it's becoming way better now. So to see that my mother and my family were accepting of this diagnosis, I mean, for me it was not that obvious, and so I didn't get the diagnosis early. But to not care about the stigma was something that was very inspiring. And so I didn't have an issue with ADHD, or it's something like I haven't heard of, just like, so yeah, it kind of made sense afterwards. I remember even that year where I got the diagnosis, I got some, because we were moving houses, and so I got this report where it said Hind would produce a lot more if she talked less. And I was like 6 years old. And I'm like, the signs were there.
So it makes sense. How are you producing more if you're talking less?
Like,
Right?
so it was
Produce more
amazing, like how
schoolwork.
all the information started, the picture, all the information like was presented to me in a way, like my past and my present. I'm like, oh yeah, this was there all along. Like, it was pretty obvious.
Sarah, I love that you can sit there and do something with your hands and talk at the same time. Every time I see you do that, I'm in awe, because anything that takes thought, I can't do it simultaneously. Like, I can sit here and rub over my little meditation scroll and feel it.
Oh yeah.
But anything like that takes thought, no, thank you.
I also just feel like it's a really
A little
good
bit of muscle memory.
It's like a good example of like fidgeting and doing something. Like, I think that like I'm always happy when you do that, not only because I can tell that you're, regulating yourself, and also just like having a good time, but also I think it's a really good example to show people like, hey, this is like a normal thing that should be okay to do. And like you can still be listening without making eye contact the entire time. Yeah.
Yes. I love that, because especially the second or third time you talk to a person, for me, this is how I know you're engaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
instead of this,
the camera with eyes glazed over, you're like, okay, she's looking at me, but is she listening? Like,
It's really great because it's a super repetitive motion, and I can really just sort of get into a groove with it, especially when there's music playing. But since we're just talking, I sort of am just haphazardly doing a little bit here and there. This is going to be a sweater panel, by the way. I just started.
Do you sell those? Do you make them for yourself, for your kids?
I just started, so far it's just all been for me. Although I did make my friend a hat with a pom-pom, and I was super impressed. She was like, you could sell these. But it would really just be like a side hustle, because it doesn't actually make you money for your time.
yeah.
Right. Anything like that.
It would just sort of be like,
these.
I'm already doing this, and I might as well sell it. Or,
Right.
I might as well just give it away.
Yeah.
My sister told me I should sell these, and I'm like, do you know how much time I spent embroidering this? It's got beads all over it. It's just a meditation scroll.
Yeah.
And I love it. And it's got all these different textures. So I'm not really into fidget spinners, but this, I can sit here and just rub on all the different textures, and it's so calming.
That
if I
reminds me
had
of
to
the palm
charge for
strips.
this, it would be, I'd probably have to charge $200 just to get my money's,
Yeah.
You'd only be
bring
able
it
to
out of
do
it.
one tile.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I fidget sometimes, but one thing that I do that I haven't been able to do, because in the rock climbing, in the winter, my fiance and I go rock climbing, so my nails always chip. But now that it's warmer out and we're doing outdoor activities, I have my nail polish again and like rubbing like my thumbs like on like the feel of nail polish.
Yeah.
So good. That's like my go-to, like under the camera, like hee hee.
For me, it's very visible. It's my hair, so.
So you're a hair player with her?
Yeah.
Okay. I do that too. I tug at my ears a lot for whatever reason. I have a finger thing that I do. And it's weird because it's all things that I've always done but didn't realize what it was. I thought it was just weird.
I sometimes do like stuff like with my mouth or like my jaw that people can't really
I'm so
see.
glad you just said that, because I was going to say I used to chew on my hair and on my clothes, and that was quote unquote bad, but actually I was just looking for oral like stimming and fixation, and I ended up smoking for a really long time to like compensate for that. So I really wish people had just let me have lollipops and gum and not made it such a big deal.
Right. So you're going through diagnosis right now for one of your children?
So yes, so my 2.5-year-old is in the process of being evaluated for autism. I mean, I always knew because he would like make me rub his head like in the same way, and he always liked to do like the pressure on his legs and stuff, and so he was always really sensory seeking. But then he never really developed language, so he has a diagnosis right now of a significant speech delay, and we've been working with OT, occupational therapist, and SLP, like speech language pathologist, and just sort of trying to play with language, lots of songs, and he has a lot of words now, okay? He can count to 20. He knows his colors, he knows his shapes, he knows his animals and his animal sounds. He knows his alphabet forwards and backwards.
I don't know that.
He'll show it to you on a keyboard, but he won't tell me that he wants juice or that he has
Hen's
to go to the bathroom
battery.
Or anything.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't want to lose her in the middle of it.
Absolutely. So we're sort of just going through the motions right now. There's a whole process. You know, you have to get their hearing checked to make sure that it's not a hearing issue. And then the school wants to, like, confirm that the diagnosis is valid, because then he's going to receive special education services, and that increases their budget. So, yeah, it's a whole process. Mind you, I live in the state of Connecticut. It's going to be different in every state in the U.S. because that's just how it is. But autism is not different no matter what state you live in, no matter what country you live in. Like, autism is autism, and so that's crazy.
Yeah, it's so weird to me that there's no standardized for at any age level, and you would think that by now there would at least be for children. You would think that by now that there would be some sort of definitive whatever that everybody follow, but no.
I think the one that we do have is just not good right now, and that's the problem. It's
Perhaps
like,
so.
does your child do hand flapping? Yes or no?
Yeah, I wish.
And
I
if no, then they don't stim.
Then they don't. Right.
You know,
I wish.
Like, no.
I wish I remembered more about my son's diagnosis. It was back in, 2003. So yeah, I've slept a lot since then. But his was a lot of, well, at the time, his was Asperger's. So it was a lot of emotional regulation issues that presented more than anything. A lot more of the social skills. So I wish I could remember more to kind of compare notes with somebody now to see what the whole process looks like. I don't remember it being very in-depth. You know, maybe just a couple of visits and 30 minutes alone with a psychiatrist, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely what it's been like. I mean, they come to the house so that they can see him in his natural environment, so that is a good thing. I think, that's a really good thing. We sort of screened him like a year ago, but I don't know, she just wanted to wait until, like, he gained more skills to get a better picture. So usually we have to do it by 3 in order for a BCBA, a behavioral analyst, to do the diagnosis. And then anyone over 3 would have to be diagnosed by a psychologist, like a doctorate level professional.
Gotcha.
And again, I don't know if that's just how it is here or
everywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Yeah.
And is there any specific area of psychology you plan on focusing on?
I'm interested in a plethora of things. Psychiatry in general just makes me very excited, but I'm seeing myself leaning towards child psychiatry for the obvious reasons of just wanting to be able to change a child's trajectory. I'm also thinking about also having a master's and maybe PhD in public health, because I feel like alongside my residency will help me be able to look at mental health in a holistic point of view. I do believe like screening programs are important. If I'm not mistaken, I think Abu Dhabi or Dubai is becoming like the first autistic friendly city, because they will implement all the screening programs and stuff. So actually, I will send you the verified information once I get it, but something like that, which is really just amazing. So something like that, which makes sure that it's no longer an individual effort like what Sarah's doing, which is amazing. You're breaking a cycle. That's just amazing what you're doing. And we no longer rely on individualistic efforts and have screening programs and education, and that can only be done through public health. So I would love to also gain some degree in that and be able to do this.
I love that. Okay, so which one of you knows the most about public health in terms of autism, as to which country is further ahead? Obviously it's not the United States, but where are outcomes better? Where is this being more recognized? I know in Australia it's big. There's UK. I think there's a study going on right now to get autistic people's input. Where else? Where's the best? Like, if you had to be autistic and live in a country, what country would you want to live in?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Always Finland.
I was just gonna say, can we
Not because they're white there. It's because they're always like giving their citizens like services with their tax money. It's incredible. The medical services that they receive, like for free, using the money that they already pay to the government. It's incredible. The paid leave, all of it, that you can like be ill and just check yourself into a mental health respite care for weeks and just like go somewhere on vacation kind of from life. But we don't have that here in the States. We just like spiral and get worse.
We have yachts and jets. And football teams.
I don't actually even know the answer to this question either. I think there's good and bad things everywhere, that from what I've heard, because I know people who are in Australia, I know people who are in New Zealand, I know people who are in the UK, and everywhere there's something going on. I've heard people say like, ooh, I don't actually want to get diagnosed because then I won't be able to leave my country. Like, another country won't accept me. So those are real concerns sort of globally.
Yeah, I think the whole world is going through that, leaning towards mental health more at various degrees, for sure. But the whole world is trying to, I think ever since COVID happened.
But it is interesting that the first country, the most resourced country that I could think of was white. I'm sure that's not by mistake.
Yeah.
No.
And I guess not to push back, but I think that it's something that comes to mind though is like, yes, overall the trend has been more, focusing on mental health research and interventions and resources. And I think that the people who are spearheading that are more and more getting into it and wanting to do these things. But at the same time, especially in the past year, 2 years, in a lot of countries, there's also this rise of like the I guess counterculture, which now in America seems like culture, at least that is pushed forward by the current administration, of a lot of backpedaling and a lot of switch back to like more like to not valuing mental health because that's better for capitalism and it's better for, they want America to go. So it's a bit, so again,
comes across as weakness. It's being framed as weakness.
Yes. So there are definitely people who are spearheading this and like who still are wanting to make change, and I think who probably are leaning into it even more because of this rise of the opposite force. But I think that opposite force is becoming more and more normalized, and people are becoming more and more empowered to push back against mental health progress.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's very, very scary.
And I'm saying that as someone who is insulated by a lot of privilege, and I think it's very scary, a lot scarier for a lot of other people in my country and other countries. And so sorry to put, I guess, a little bit of a damper on things, but.
Well, but I mean, it's reality. And if we don't talk about it, you know, what's going to change?
And because actually psychiatry and mental health has been very popular, psychiatry was always the you know, not the least desired, but like one of those where you can easily get into the speciality, and now it's becoming really hard. So I'm actually fighting really hard to get into a good residency program because it's becoming very competitive. Because people, which is a good thing, it's, you know, people are interested in becoming psychiatrists. There's a huge demand for them. There's always been a huge demand for them, but
yeah, we still don't have enough.
Yeah, there's always a shortage of doctors. By the way, I was discussing this with one of my mentors, and there's always a shortage of doctors everywhere. It's just it's one of those things that we all have in common.
Yeah, something I thought about, because I have a friend. She's actually going to be on the podcast eventually, who is a pharmacist. She's just graduated. But something we've talked about is how crazy it is that there's all these barriers to entry to be a doctor. I'm not even talking about like length of school, like that is important. But at least in America, like it takes a lot of money. Like you have to be in a position where either you're in a position of privilege and wealth, or you take on crazy amounts of debt to become a doctor, and then they're surprised that there's not a lot of doctors. Like, it's hard.
Well, and then your doctorness is dictated by the insurance company. So you're not even allowed a large portion of the time to do what you were trained to do. You've got people sitting behind desks dictating how you're allowed to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Algorithms denying prescriptions and surgeries.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's just ridiculous. Can I ask y'all a question?
Yeah.
Just don't laugh at me. How do y'all find friends and these people to do stuff with? Like, I feel like I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah. I just want to say that is so real. That was, thank you for being this vulnerable. And I'm not saying that in a condescending way, because that was literally, that's literally how I felt until I met these two. I'm like, how do people meet? And again, like, how do people find partners? How do people, like, what is going on? I feel like, how, why, what, when, where? Like
what am I doing wrong?
So anything wrong. A lot of it is luck, and also it's something like, I feel like it's similar to confidence. When you don't have a lot of confidence, it's hard to get some of it, but once you have a little bit, it kind of grows exponentially. And I feel like making connections is a similar thing. When you don't have any connections, it's really hard to put yourself out there, because it's really easy to think, am I doing something wrong? Is there something wrong with me? So it's hard to be your authentic self around people. It's hard to put yourself out there to make those connections. But once you have a few, it's a lot easier. So like I met my fiance in college because we were in the same friend group, and now we live where his hometown, where a lot of people have moved back. So now I have an automatic friend group, and luckily I get along with them so well. They have partners who are now part of this friend group, and because I have that friend group, I feel like, because I get very nervous meeting new people, but when I'm with a group of friends and we're just talking to somebody else, like, it's a lot easier to do that, and I've made more connections that way. So, and then in terms of like online stuff, because I knew Sarah, she invited me to like a Discord that she has. Like, she brought me into a community. So a lot of it was circumstantial, and there's a lot that, there's a lot to be said about the luck part of it. And there are some things that you can do, like trying to join communities or Discords, or that is so much easier said than done, because it's hard to make connection.
Well, yeah, because once you're there, you have to be brave.
Yeah.
And impulsive.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we can be good at, but we can also like talk ourselves out of taking risks totally.
Yeah.
And also,
I'm not even embarrassed to tell you that like a year ago I typed into Goblin Tools like how to make a friend, and then I asked it to give me a little time estimate, and it told me 9 months, and I was like, what? I could grow my own friend in 9 months. But you know what?
And
however,
and plus, like, we're all looking at each other's play. We're not looking at the backstage. Like, you're looking at me right now with my hair done and makeup, right? You should see me most of the time.
We should have turned up in our robes, though, with hot cocoa.
And honestly, this is one of the first times in my life where I feel like it's going up, thankfully, like, knock on wood, because I'm meeting people and feeling connection. But I've always felt lonely.
Yeah.
So I understand, and
Thank you for saying that.
no, really, like exactly. And I'm in an age now where my friends are everywhere. Like all of them are taking residency. Either I have one in Montreal, one in Halifax. Don't ask me why. One in Long Island. And one who's in California, she's a mother. The other is like trying to finish her studies. I'm childless cat lady, apparently. That's a thing now. Like,
That's okay.
That's the thing that, people point out. So it's like different even stages in your life, and you're even losing not losing, but like you're no longer having the same friend anymore because she's a mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Super true.
Your life changes. Well, I'll share something else vulnerable with y'all and a little bit embarrassing, and it'll kind of show you how immature my social thinking is. I thought once I got my diagnosis and I started seeing, hey, there's all these communities and everybody out there, I just thought I was going to just be friends with everybody. It didn't occur to me that autistic people can still be assholes. Sorry to cuss, but you know what I mean? I just thought we were all going to be friends.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to add like a bit of like an extra thing to the end of what I was just saying before, which is, and also even if you join these communities, like just because you meet someone that's neurodivergent doesn't mean that they are not.
Doesn't mean you're going to click.
It doesn't mean, okay, like, because you could be two great people that don't click. That's the thing. You could meet someone who is still working through their own stuff and they're not able to show up as a good friend. Like, you might meet somebody and your communication styles can be very different. And like, maybe like the way that you like to do things, the way that they like to do things is just, it's not compatible. So like, it's hard. And like, it's because it's not just, oh, I just go into these communities and it's done. Like, you have to find the right people, and that takes time to figure out. And
it embarrasses me saying that out loud, that at 50 years old, I just thought we all were going to be friends.
That is not embarrassing.
That's not embarrassing. I can
that is hopeful to hear. Like, that's beautiful to hear. Like, somebody who just wants everybody to get along, just wants to connect. Like, that's what everybody wants. And if anybody thought less of you, they're not being honest with themselves, because everybody wants that.
Everybody
thank you
wants
for saying that.
For sure, everybody wants that. And I feel like, again, this could have been something that was going on for a long time simply because of how society is set up. For me, I even told JQ and Sarah, like, this is something new to me, because obviously from KG to 12th grade, you have this third space. And then for me in college, it acted like high school, because so it's not like in America, Europe and Arab countries and all, like, we do med school differently. We just immediately go into med school, and it's like 6 or 7 years. So in these 6 or 7 years, you're the same batch in the same lecture hall, or a different one, but like the professors come to you. So it's not like so we have a college experience that basically was an extended high school, plus it was 10 times more difficult, like exams. So when I graduated at 25,
froze.
My God, I was like, what's happening? Why am I so alone?
It'll still have record.
Yeah, and it happened really late for
Will
me.
it still record, Sarah?
Yeah.
Sorry, Hind. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. But,
I wanted to make sure we got all that.
Yeah. So yeah, like, so I've been going through this for like 6 years now, trying to navigate. And I feel like just now I'm like, maybe, finding 3 people that I'm like, okay, fine. I can, and understand that not every friend is for everything. Because my other friends, I have like,
right.
Like
that was so hard for me. I wanted my husband to be everything for me.
I just
and
realized
couldn't.
Like a few weeks ago.
That was unhealthy.
Like a few weeks ago, I was like, oh my God, my friend is great. Just because she doesn't have ADHD and understand my ADHD experience doesn't mean she's not great. She's so great for other things. But it's this black and white thinking of like, because she doesn't understand my ADHD experience, maybe I'm not picking the right friends. But I'm like, no. She just,
that is so
I love that you said that. I love that you said that.
One person can't be every single characteristic that exists in the world, and can't have every single interest, and can't do every single thing. So I very much relate to what you said, Sarah, because when I first moved in with my, at the time, boyfriend, but now fiance, like, I went through like a similar like learning curve, because mostly because we were just living in Virginia by ourselves and we did not really have an established friend group. But like, and then to what you said, Hind, like, just because somebody doesn't understand every single thing about being ADHD or having autism, like, yes, those are important parts of you, but it's something where you don't like, and I think that it's also like a very like neurodivergent thing to be like, I need to be fully understood.
Yes.
I need to make sure that this
Yes.
person understands me. But not everyone's going to be able to do that. And if they still treat you well and you still enjoy your time, it's like you get to decide how much of a part of your life they get to be, and you get to decide like how much time you're spending with that person. And if for some reason the other party isn't okay with that amount of time, then maybe it warrants a conversation about being like, yeah, like I just think that sometimes you don't really receive X, Y, and Z thing, or sometimes I go to you for this thing, but I go to someone else for this thing because this is what you. And I think that should be a normal thing.
I think too, in theory, to have somebody that's everything sounds good in theory, but God, how boring would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in real life. I mean, I just think that how boring would that be if you really dig down and think about it? We want the idea of that, but the reality, I don't think, would live up to our expectations.
It comes from ideas of like there's romantic love, and by that I mean like the romantic period, like, and then classical love, where like romantic love is like they know me so well that they can like read my thoughts and I only need them, and it's like us against the world, where it's like these dreamy ideations that sound nice because you want a person that's like perfect for you. But classical love is more like we challenge each other and it's not perfect all the time, and like we have open communication about uncomfortable topics, and we respect each other's boundaries, and we have lives beyond each other, like, and that's
where the fulfillment comes from. That's where you get fulfillment from.
Yeah.
I have a question with regards to that, and I was wondering if you guys have the same thing. I feel like when it comes to us, the dreamy part is quick and fast. And sometimes I even though most of the time it's sustained and I feel like the connection I've made with these people stays, maybe the intensity becomes more realistic. Do you feel sometimes that you don't trust that because like the, you know, for the lack of a better term, like the love bombing that you're doing, you know, is maybe that healthy? Do you trust that instinct? You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it depends. Like, I think that there's, I know this is not a fun, like, this is not probably the answer that you want, but from my experiences, at least, like, it really depends on the person. Like, some people really appreciate that and want to receive that, and some people don't. And I think it's about just communication on both parties.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go well, it's probably because of a lack of communication from both parties.
Yeah.
I'm smiling because I'm way older than all of you, and I'm on my third marriage. So I have a very different perspective of it than I did back at QG's age.
Yeah.
You know, right? I trusted it 100% back then. Trust, because it was all about feelings. Just I trusted feelings. Well, you know what? Feelings come like that. Feelings go like that. And I think it got more logical the older that I got. It was less.
So glad you said that.
It was less butterfly, ooh, frou feelings, and a lot more logic went into it. And yes, it kind of, the fairy tale romancy stuff kind of went away and wasn't as exciting, but that's not the stuff that lasts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's like, that's not actually meeting my needs. My needs are, you know, emotional security and stability.
That's again like the romantic versus classical love thing. Like, you guys, like, that's exactly like the romantic stuff is the stuff that's all so exciting and like very much like you're following your feelings and like what feels good.
The feeling of love.
Yeah.
As opposed to
Like
the action of love.
Yes, exactly.
And I think the same thing goes for friendships.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I
100%.
immediately was
All
thinking
relationships
about
are this way.
And my way of viewing that completely changed a few years ago, where I realized I actually met my soulmates, and they're not, you know, it's okay if they're not okay. It's amazing that they're friends. It's all right.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't
you
have
found
to be.
them.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, because before I met my fiance, like, we met in college, and like I remember having a conversation with my mom like the beginning of my freshman year before we really became friends, just being like, I have not really found anybody that I want to be with, and I would be super happy just like living with like my two close friends in a house, and like maybe the three of us could adopt kids if we wanted to raise kids one day, and like we could have like pets, and we could like just hang out and play board games and have a fun time. And like I was like that's something that I'm sure I would have actually done that, but then I happened to meet someone and that changed. But my point is though, is that like, yeah, like your soulmate, you could have a bunch of soulmates. You could have a bunch of people that make you feel fulfilled and make you feel seen. It doesn't have to be romantic. If it is, that's also great. But if it's not, that's also great. Like
Also, intimacy doesn't have to be romantic either.
yeah.
I'm glad you said that. Yes, at all. Which is a whole other topic I want to explore someday with just my views on intimacy, because I know that they're different and weird.
Yeah.
And, well, also menopause, and
All
how
that,
that affects all of, So I'm just in this weird little thing with my body, with my feelings, where I don't even know what I feel half the time,
We had one of the hypothesis for episodes. I found this research, and it's recent, like 2025, of women hormonal changes and ADHD. So I think this topic, pivoting back to ADHD, like it is different for women than for men. You are now gonna have to reevaluate, like even your symptoms now are different. Sensitive.
I would love to read.
I'm
Getting to know yourself again.
Yeah. I'm going to see if I can send it actually to you, because I feel like it's still open.
Okay.
People who have experienced maybe like sexual trauma would also sort of have a similar
Right.
unease.
Yeah. And I had a lot of sexual trauma growing up. So that's still, even with therapy and years of dealing with it, it never goes away. It never goes
Changes.
away. It changes who you could have
change
been.
your relationship to it.
Right, exactly. I was going to ask y'all another question. Oh, is there anything y'all want to shout about? Sell yourselves, promote.
Just please check out our podcast. We're three girls who love learning and want to share the knowledge, and we want you guys to join the journey, in Neurodivergent Podcast. And thank you so much for, hosting us and listening to our experience. And it was so great to get to know you. I definitely think she should be part of the community. We need you here.
Oh my God, yes.
I just want to be.
Did I
just
not
want
already
friends.
invite?
That's what I was gonna say, like a part of the community, yes, totally. And like literally, if you want to hang, do a little lunch, like if we're all working during the day, and we want to eat a little lunch. I know, Hind, it's a different time zone.
I can accommodate. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Dinner.
We've been doing it your 12 o'clock is my 7 p.m. So it's good.
Okay.
We got it.
Look, Sarah got me hooked on Substack.
Yeah.
I'm like a Substack queen now.
Yay!
All because of her.
You're doing amazing.
Thank you.
And you're taking risks. And that's the hard part.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. And you're doing it by yourself. It's a lot of work.
Thanks.
So definitely
y'all
come
just
talk to us.
Y'all just built me up.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, that's that coaching. That's that peer support sort of coaching environment that I love to help foster. Obviously, if you listen to the Neurodivergent Report podcast, you'll get to hear some more little nuggets like that. Some more communal healing opportunities as well. But you can also come talk to us one-on-one. I do personal coaching services still.
Amazing.
If you need ADHD executive function support, if you need some help building a mindfulness routine, if you want to learn how to use tarot cards to do journaling, I'm your girl. So just come find me. You can
second that.
you can get connected through our ndreportpod.com, and you'll find my personal info there.
And we have a customer review right here.
Yeah, I'm telling you, firsthand experience, guys.
In
you
real
won't
time.
regret it. She's the best ADHD coach in my life.
I love it.
Became 10 times better. I had a United States medical licensing exam, which is one of the most difficult exams, and I managed to pass it, thankfully, because of Sarah.
I love
Sarah
that.
Here. Yeah.
I love that.
She was studying wrong. No,
She was doing it wrong.
I was studying wrong. And even
just putting in way too much effort.
Even the nitty-gritty of it, she even helped me understand my self-sabotage while answering the questions. because I didn't even know I was doing that. Like, sometimes I would know it's the wrong answer and I would answer. I'm like, why am I doing that? So she gets to the nitty
The
gritty
emotions.
of it. Yeah, like all of it. I realized not only did I have a problem with studying, even with exam taking. That's a skill. And I didn't have it.
It is. And knowing how your brain works and your body works is so important to learning that skill.
Exactly.
I know I'm jumping back again, but something that I was just thinking about, like, while we're all talking is, like, I know I've talked about how, like, I have, like, a good support system, and I do. And a lot of my friends are neurotypical, and some of them are also male. Like, I have a lot of guy friends, or also friends who are not in, like, the regular gender binary. But I've also had a lot of negative experience with cisgender female neurodivergent people. And I know that it's bad to, like, generalize across, like, a bunch of people, but I've also, like, I feel like I've been nervous to have those relationships. And I'm like, with women specifically, I've had a hard time connecting. And then with the women I would connect with, they would be ADHD or autistic. But then a lot of those relationships ended up, like, falling apart. And I'm sure that I could have done, I'm sure I had a part in that as well. But it was, like, clear that, like, we were not compatible people. So I definitely get very nervous around, like, making friends with other women. And it's been something where I've just been really lucky to have you two, and then also now Gal, like, and I'm just sitting here and I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, this is just so nice. So yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I struggle too. In fact, the last friendship I had, and I'll talk about this and then we'll wrap up because I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. But the last friend I had was around 2019, and I still miss her every day. And I told her the very first time we hung out, I said, I'm not one of these friends that needs to talk to you every day. I just don't. We can go 6 weeks and not speak, and I'm going to pick up like we just talked yesterday. I don't need that constant contact. I'll be here for you all the time. We got close, and it got to this just drowning you in texts, phone calls. Why didn't you respond? Why didn't you respond the way that I wanted you to respond?
Yes.
3-hour calls explaining to them that I'm your friend. I love you. I'll do anything for you. And I finally just had to cut. I told her, I said, I can't do this anymore. And it's like ending a romantic relationship because I love her. I still love her. I just couldn't handle the weight of the friendship because it was too much.
Expectations.
Yes. And not realizing that people have lives outside of your friendship. So I've struggled with that very much the same way, maybe for different reasons. But women do tend to be more needy. They just do. In general, I'm saying, in my experience, women tend to be more needy, or the friends that I've had.
I think it's the way that I've, like, conceptualized it in my own brain is that women tend to play, like, there's a lot of more, like, unspoken rules and expectations that are not communicated. And that then ends up, I think it could result in feeling like that person is asking a lot of you because you're like, whoa, where did all of this come from? I was not aware of this.
So I maybe that's it. Maybe it's me not understanding the unspoken rules.
That's how it's been for me. Like, I think a lot, like, with my relationship with guys, like, a lot of the time, like, they just generalizing, like, there's less of a focus on that.
All right, ladies, does everybody just want to say bye before we stop recording?
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having
us. What'd you say, Hen?
Oh, I got to give her a name, but I haven't developed it yet.
All right.
Look, it took me a few days to develop theirs.
All right. I'll give you some time. That's why you need to join the Discord.
But here's